So if we look at just the basics of journey design, and again, you can use the skills that you learned earlier this week if you want to jot down a few things in sketch notes. So journeys can take on many, many forms, all right? And usually when I get presented with a journey from a specific brand, and it is a very large Excel file, that makes it immediately quite difficult to consume. So the image that you see in front of you is a high-level journey for a client of ours that was done pictorially. And this journey is one that gets orchestrated in the call center. And as we learned this week, our brains love images, all right? 80% of our processing of our brain goes to visual cues. And by memorizing these images, it becomes really, really easy for someone to orchestrate this journey in a call center. Some of the journeys that I worked on 13 years ago, and I started my journey in customer experience in a life insurance company. And one of the first journeys that I unpacked and redesigned in detail was death claims. Now, folks, death claims is not necessarily the most inspirational place to necessarily work on a journey because your customer is dead and you're dealing with the next of kin, which is really, really complex relationships. And, you know, if we looked at a traditional persona there, it would be the life insured. All right. It's a highly compliance-driven environment with a ton of rules. All right. Now, the amazing thing about that very first journey that we did 13 years ago is if you put me on that call center in the death claims call center, I would probably to this day be able to handle that telephone call because those images are so imprinted in my brain that I could very easily take charge of that call and talk to the next of kin. Now, in that environment, what we found was just a lot of process excellence and transactional excellence, but not nearly enough empathy. All right, so as we go through the basics of how we do a customer journey, we're going to focus very much on how do we put emotion and empathy into this, and you will get a copy of the slide back. So let's just quickly look at what is a journey map. So we can see it as a story with actors and stages. The story is seen from the perspective of the customer. Now, I know there's a lot of you that are from a process improvement background. There might be some Lean Six Sigma green belts and black belts in the room. All right, I'm seeing some heads bobbing. Fantastic. So what the customer journey is not a process map. All right, this is really looking at it from the customer's perspective. And often when we do journey mapping, we see a very single-threaded process here of a customer engaging with a brand, but a customer is engaging with many brands at the same time, many brands that solve different problems for them. And sometimes the emotions flow over from one journey into the next. All right, so this story focuses on the facts, but it also focuses on emotions and empathy. What's really important from your work that you did yesterday, if you have a persona and an empathy map, this is really going to help you understand your customer and your employee. It's going to turn them from a customer number and a number on your payroll into like a real human being to focus what's important for them and to feel what's going on in their lives. The reason why you want to do that is to become a brilliant designer of their journeys. All right. We can design from a place of empathy to solve problems or to increase the pleasure that the brand gives them. All right, so we did speak about the experience essence. All right, this is your target. If I strip off your logo, how will I know that it's you? If I turn your brand into a perfume or I turn it into some amazing secret sauce, your journey is the way that you actually bring this to life. You take the perfume, you spray it on the moments in your journey. You spray it on your people. You spray it on your documents. All right. Or alternatively, you take that beautiful akabanga oil that I told you about, and you take that chili oil and you infuse everything with it. All right. So typically how we facilitate these journeys is we use a lot of storytelling. So once upon a time, there was a customer, and, you know, tell us what happened to them. Where does the journey start? Why did they do that? What happened before they did that? What's going to happen after they did that? What emotions are your customer feeling in that moment? What's the time lapse? What did they see? What did they think? What did they experience? All right. So that's kind of, you have a lot of questions and you're looking at this as if you've never seen it. You would have heard the story of Richard Branson. Richard Branson used to fly his own airline with a notebook, and he'd move all around the cabin and look at what people are doing, and he'd make notes. And one of the stories that I just love is they used to have on Virgin Atlantic, they used to have these beautiful little salt and pepper pots. All right. And they saw that a lot of people took them because they were so pretty. People would just nick them, you know. And what they did is they printed at the bottom of these salt and pepper pots, they printed nicked from Virgin Atlantic. Because when people then steal them and they have them on the dinner table, someone would say, oh, that's so cute. Where did you get that? And people would kind of, like from a place of naughtiness, they would brag and say, okay, I took them from Virgin Atlantic. Aren't they cute? I kind of feel bad that I stole them, but they're so cute. Now, how clever is that? You know, if we were a corporate, what would we have done? Okay. If we were a corporate, what could we have done? Okay. I see some of you like the salt and pepper in the little sachets. Okay. The pepper never tastes like pepper. So we could have given them sachets. We could have also like frisked and searched everyone as they left the plane. Okay. We could have gotten like a I'm seeing some of you, Andrea, I see you smiling. Eh? So we could have frisked everybody and did a full body search there to make sure that they don't walk away with the salt and pepper pots. But instead, what they did here is they got amazing marketing at the dinner table of something that initially looked like a problem. All right. So that's really, really important that you go and see things as if you're seeing it for the first time, and potentially look at very different solutions to what you had before. All right. So what's important is that you start your journey with a persona. You focus on the emotions. You have these moments in the journey that is like, it's like the frames in a movie. See it as the frames in a movie. What happens in this moment? What happens in the next moment? And then we did speak briefly about interaction channels. I think it was Matthew that mentioned, you know, sometimes we go from face to face, I'm in the bank, or I then send an email and then I go onto the app. And these moments happen in different channels. So what you want to do is you want to map these moments in each of the channels. And sometimes you want to map them side by side so that you can see what happens when I go into a branch of a bank versus when I do this on the app. What is the consistency? What is the effort? And if people then traverse your channels, if they break out from the app and they need to call someone, what is that experience going to feel like? All right. So it's important to have a channel view on it as well. So what are my touch points, and what are the different ways I can do this? Now, let's say you have 5 different channels in which you offer certain things. Don't go and map all of them at the same time, all right? Because it's going to be so overwhelming. You want to start with one. You want to prioritize these things. And my guidance would always be digital first, with where people are moving in terms of automation, in terms of efficiency, is a clever way to do it. So digital first, but do not forget your human channels, all right? Because most of you in the room actually have call centers that have a number of people in them, all right? And there's still some of you that handle 20,000, 30,000 telephone calls a day, all right? So your digital and your human channel is really, really important. It kind of feels wrong to say the word human channel, but you know what I mean, like your your face-to-face interaction and your phone interaction, the warm-blooded human connection. All right, then the last thing I want to talk about on the slide is your moment of truth. Not all moments are equal. The moment of truth was originally kind of coined by Jan Carlson from, I think it's Scandinavian Airlines. And in that moment of truth, that's really where your customer will make a decision. So we want to look for peaks in that experience where the emotions are high, all right, where I've got high emotion, and potentially I'm going to make a decision to either stay or to bail out. All right, so you want to identify those moments of truth and give them a little bit extra attention. Fantastic. So if we then look at the moments of truth, we want to go and unpack them in terms of what's the customer's expectation in that moment, how can we exceed the expectation, and how can we fail the expectation? What are the emotions we want to infuse in that moment? All right, so you want to set your emotional target. If I want the customer to feel confident in that moment, then I need to do certain things to make them feel confident in that moment. And then another perspective, and we'll give you an extensive journey mapping structure later today. But what's really important is who owns that moment. Because unless the moment is owned, that moment will not necessarily be guarded and looked after. It's like Eric's sentiments earlier this week. Are you a carpenter or are you a gardener? These moments also need to be nurtured. They need to be looked after. And for example, I mentioned the death claims example earlier today. So for example, in death claims, we had who's the owner of the death claims journey, all right? And there was a business manager that owned the death claims journey. But within death claims, there were also moments that were owned by the call center. Then there were moments that were owned by a back office team that would do the assessment on the journey and on the death claim that was submitted. So it has a very different outcome when you look at, all right, so who's the team that's actually enabling the customer's experience in this journey? And it's almost like they get extra responsibilities because all of a sudden they're not just leading a team or making sure that there's compliance to processes. They also need to guard the experience of the customer in that moment. All right, ownership makes sense. All right, fantastic. So I want to say one last thing before I move off this. What's really important in terms of identifying the failures, usually we train people on compliance to standard operating procedures. So this is the process and this is the process that you should follow. What we don't train people on is what to do when that process goes wrong, what to do when there's failures. So if you identify in all of these moments, what are the moments of magic, what are the moments of misery, and you train people on the moments of misery, saying, if, for example, a customer don't get their bank card after they open an account, here's the 3 things you do when that happens, all right? You apologize, you make sure the card's replaced, you give them something, you catch it, you don't wait for them to escalate through the system. All right, then you're ready. Then nobody needs to be surprised. Usually when I engage with complaints teams and I ask them, how many brand new complaints have you had in the last 6 months? What do you think they say to me? They stay quiet and then they think a little bit and then they say, maybe that one, but it was the same. No, we had no new complaints, nothing new, nothing original, nothing, out of the ordinary. And the reason why people keep on dealing with the same stuff over and over again is because we haven't taken a step back and looked at all of the failures, all of the moments of misery. Let's go and design the misery out of them, or let's just make them very predictable. Boom, that goes wrong. I know what to do here. Oh, it's one of those. No, I know how to deal with this. Instead of people going, oh, not one of those again. Oh, I can't deal with one of those again. All right, so the types of journey maps that you can get. People, this is like the question that comes up in most of our workshops. Okay, what kind of journey map am I going to do? Am I going to do an as is, so how things look today? Yeah, so that's going to happen. All right. But very often when you map how things look today, your brain can almost not cope with not innovating. All right. So I usually recommend a much looser approach of saying, all right, let's map the ideal journey first. Let's just go and say if this was blue sky and there were no budget restrictions and there were no limitations, let's go and map the blue sky. And then we can come back to what's there today. Because if we fixate on what's there today, this is step A and then B and then C, we sometimes get trapped in that and we can't break out of that. And we struggle to see it from the customer's perspective. So my guidance would always be blue sky, reimagine the journey completely. And then you can come back with what's there today and say, all right, so how do we get from where we are to really where we want to be? And in the blue sky journey design, you're probably going to sit with many innovations and ideas that will never be implemented. All right. So I always talk about this graveyard of ideas that sometimes you need to let them go because they are too hard, too expensive for the organization, and that's all right. But what that does is it pulls you in a differentiated direction. All right, otherwise we're just going to make what we have better. We just make a little bit faster horses, and we actually never make that bridge to say, all right, so let's take the horse out of the picture, let's keep the wheels, and let's see what we come up with. All right, then we've got, and I think some of the people in the room, we have worked with your brand on a brand new product that you launched. And in that process, we designed a journey for this brand new product. And that's really, really cool. So if you know that you're going to start with a brand new product, then you can really design what the processes are going to look like, what the systems are going to look like. And then there's service blueprints that really help us understand below the water, how are we going to deliver this service? What are the service units? What are the different processes? And looking at the complete end-to-end service delivery. And how are we going to measure it? What are some of the KPIs? All right, so it's important to understand kind of the front stage, backstage. Front stage is everything that happens with the customer. Backstage is everything that kind of happens inside the organization that the customer doesn't really need to be aware of. So we've spoken extensively, map with customers, map with a multidisciplinary internal team. All right, the worst thing you can do is go into a dark room with only 2 people in your team and map your journeys. Because 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you're going to come to me and say, Chantel, nobody likes the journey maps. Nobody wants to implement it. They're not buying this. I'm not getting buy-in. My stakeholders don't give a continental about my maps. All right. You need to make people own it through engaging them. All right. Because if their ideas are in there, the weird thing is if you've given birth to an idea, you want to defend and protect it. So the more you can engage a multidisciplinary team to come up with these innovations with you, the more they will own it. And you will also, some of the side effects of this is you'll start to break down some of those silos in your organization and get people just to work together a lot better. When they ideate together and it's about the customer, it's not about their own egos, something magically just happens. All right, so get your people from compliance, get your people from legal. If you need to get our help in getting them on board and running them through a little masterclass so they can understand the stuff, obviously we're there to support you, but get your people from marketing, get your people from actuarial. As wide as what you can go, get diverse people. And also what I don't want you to be afraid of is the people that come to these workshops of yours and they're critical. Like, that'll never work. Like, no, we can't do it like that. That's not the rules. You want to actually appreciate those people and say, I'm so glad you are bringing that to the meeting. Please tell us more so we can completely understand your world. And then we put it on a parking lot somewhere and we say to people, we will come back to that. For the moment, let's just think blue sky, but we will come back to that. All right. So really, really multidisciplinary teams. Matthew, you've got a question. Go for it.
I've just found when you start to incorporate a lot of different stakeholders from a lot of different departments in a journey mapping session, you end up with too many cooks in the kitchen. And you can set it as a 3-hour session. You can even make it a full day session, and you don't get to where you need to get. And this drags it out into what should have been a 1 day, into a 3 day, into spread over 3 different weeks, because no one wants to come to a consensus on what is the actual journey, because they all want to, like you were saying, prioritize their sections or prioritize their department. So what we started doing was actually limiting the amount of individuals we put into the beginning of the journey mapping, and then it goes quicker. So I just wanted to understand, what was your take on that in terms of too many cooks in the kitchen, because that has been our biggest barrier for completion when it comes to journey mapping. And it makes people almost discouraged in doing it, because there's just too many voices in the room.
Yeah, absolutely, Matthew. So we are going to go into a session tomorrow where I'm going to show you how to structure some of this. So I think especially online, and what you'll see in our group sizes today is you're 5 or 6 in a group, and that's kind of that's a good size for running a workshop. And sometimes what we've done is you would run multiple of the same workshops, Matthew, with different audiences of 6. So instead of having a group of 20 people together, you run the same workshop with different people of 6. And then we would collate the results. So you've got 6 people who are highly engaged, highly passionate, highly contributing. You have another group, and then you collate those results, and that almost gives you the richest end result. And when you play it back to people, they kind of recognize what they've done. And I think as the CX lead in your team, just priming people for the right things, like, we're going to ask your input, but not let people, I agree with you, this decision by committee in terms of what the end journey looks like. You need a tight group of people that would actually make the decision. So there's people that are going to give you input, and then there's a little governance body that'll actually decide, all right, so this is version 1 of the journey, because these things are also they shouldn't be too static, all right? They should be versioned, and they should grow as time continues. So I'm hoping that's useful. Mike, go for it.
So perhaps I misunderstood, but I just wanted to clarify something in the actual journey mapping, where you had the little, sort of road, and you had the moments of truth and moments and interaction channels. So you mentioned that, there should be a focus on digital first. And that sounds a little bit counterintuitive to me, because yesterday we spoke about the empathy maps, where we were talking about, what we're trying to solve for is either a pain or a pleasure. And by focusing on a certain channel, it sounds like we would be forcing a client down a certain path. And specifically, let's say in your death claim example, you might be dealing with older clients, or not even clients of yours, but family members of someone who's died, and they're not keen on digital channels. They want to talk to someone. So I just wanted to just clarify your thinking about the focusing on a certain channel, because surely it should be based on the client's needs.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And I think you highlight something that's really important. So that's when we get to your different personas. So if you're working with an older person who's not tech savvy, their needs will be very, very, very different. If you're working with let's say next of kin, and it's one of us doing our parents' death claim, then digital might be a good way to go. So if we for example, Mike, if we listen to those phone calls and we hear people usually phone in to say, so and so has died, I need to lodge a death claim, what do I do? Then the options are, all right, so you can talk to an advisor who's going to help you fill in a form. You can also do it online on the web. All right. Or you could go into one of our offices and someone will help you. So from there on, I think then you can run it in parallel. I think because such a lot of companies have a digital focus, sometimes imagining there is no form, all right, really helps us look at this very differently. So if we look at specifically that death claims example, when we interrogated that form, the order of what people asked on the form made no sense whatsoever, all right? And when we asked them, but why is the form like that? Why does the form ask for, it's the next of kin filling in the form, but it asks for the advisor code first. Why is that? They go, well, the system wants us to capture it in that format. So all of a sudden you kind of unearth things there and go, okay, so if we didn't have, the form and we were just doing this like, face to face or on the phone, or if we were doing this on an app, how would we do it? And sometimes that informs a different kind of thinking. So what I'm not saying is by focusing on digital, you shouldn't take your eye off the customer. All right. And if you're finding, again, back to our volume issue, if you're finding that, for a particular transaction, you're getting 100,000 forms filled in a month versus, 20,000 on an app, then you should look at how can I at scale start changing experiences without being inner focused and saying, okay, I want to drive the customer to the channel that's cheaper for me. All right. So absolutely, that's not what I'm saying. But I think just challenging the status quo and never forgetting the person on the telephone. All right. I actually want to make day 4 the day we celebrate call center agents, because sometimes I just don't know how people can take 60 calls a day and still smile and still be that friendly. All right, Mike, does that help? All right, stunning. Johan, go for it.
Thank you, Chantel. Yeah, I just want to also comment on Matthew's experience, sort of. I think what I'm hearing is it's when people get stuck in the process again, when you don't move forward almost, because everybody wants to talk about the process. So I think my advice is do your first journeys and get as many voices in, but do it high level just from the customer's point of view. Okay, forget the process. Don't even go there. Just unpack the story. And you want everybody there because, somebody is coming in with a different lens and they will spot journey moments that we miss. And then I think after unpacking that story, then go into the smaller groups, start unpacking down, and where you get to the process stuff and there's different departments, bring those specialists in on those sessions to help you unpack. But I think at the beginning, it is so important to have as wide as audience as you can, but the facilitator needs to control the situation and keep it on track from a customer's perspective first. Just unpacking and identifying those moments across before you start digging down. I think what we've seen, and I mean we've done hundreds of these things. Where Chantel facilitates, she always pulls back. She always pulls back the moment it starts going chaotic almost. She keeps the group on track and just telling that story from the customer at first. Thank you, Chantel.
All right. So 2 more things. Draw the story. It's very effective to draw the story. All right. And I've drawn many dysfunctional stickman stories, but very effective. I remember back to my story about death claims, what was really funny with these workshops, and this is like really at the start of my journey in customer experience. I was quite shocked because every workshop, when I asked them how did the client die, they would tell these violent stories like of someone being run over by a train, or a husband and wife having some domestic issues and there's a lover involved and the husband shoots the wife. And I could never understand why are they, obviously there was a challenge because they wanted me to draw interesting stories. So I would draw train tracks and someone lying on the train tracks and the train coming. And, I think they were kind of testing my abilities as well. But what I later realized is the reason why they made these stories so dramatic is they were really having a hard time dealing with death. And they didn't have a place to decompress some of their emotions. So some of these sessions eventually kind of turned into a bit of a place for them to just come and voice the things that's hard for them. And just by talking about this, some of that already started shifting. So if you get people, and I remember they had me draw the QA people with horns and tails and a fork. And the QA people would be sitting in the room as they explained to me how to draw the QA people, all right? And nobody they kind of had this banter and jokes, and all of a sudden they got to surface actually how afraid they are of the QA people. And the QA people got to say, like, listen, we really don't want to have horns and a tail and a fork. We're just doing our jobs. And this led to a whole different level of conversation. So I really want to encourage you, draw these stories out, because something happens when you externalize things that are difficult to talk about. You might just ignite a whole different level of conversation that could be like healing for your organization. All right, so I want to quickly show you. This is in the days when we still had a lot of face-to-face workshops, and we would have all been together in a room at Henley Business School Chess, and we would have built some Lego. Don't worry, Lungisa, I didn't see that yawn. I know it's not me. I know it's that party last night. So we would have built some Lego together, and you're going to see me working. We're going to do a demo for you just on how we do these journeys on the whiteboard. This is the structure we use. But I would really advise what we've done with some of the folks in the room. I see you smiling. We kind of package these things, workshop in a box, and we send people Lego, and we actually let them build the Lego, because something happens when you visualize the story. I think Nicole and Chrisleen, there we go. Chrisleen's done some, there we go. There's an extensive little Lego set there. All right, so people would visualize things in the Lego, and they'd be able to tell a story. Now, some of the benefits of journey mapping that you will experience is people will go in the same team that have worked on some of these things for a long time. They'll go, oh, is that how it works? So you'll get alignment. They'll also get like really constructive debate to say, listen, that's not how we do it here. And then people would go, but that's the process. And people would go, no, but that's not how we do it here. And all of a sudden you have constructive debate about how it's done and how it's like really done. Then corrective design. As you go through these journeys, people would go, that cannot be right. Surely we can't do it like that. And you'd be able to fix things. Critical evaluation, people will ask, but why do we do it like that? Why do we take that step there? And why does the customer have to go through all of this? And then there is white space. All right, so in your journeys, I want you to map white space. White space is where nothing happens. It can be really, really valuable to look at, let's say, between the time someone applies for an account and they get their welcome package or they get their card. There's white space that goes by, and very often people don't use the white space effectively. If you can't eliminate it, maybe you can add some value and build the relationship in that white space. And then there's innovation. All right, so I want to take you through just a few slides. This is what one employee journey looked like. So usually once they come off the boards, off the Miro boards and off the Lego panels, they land in a repository. This was done in a tool called UXpressia, a really beautiful tool to use, also very cost effective. And we use UXpressia quite often. This is another version of a journey map. Remember, if you look at that, very overwhelming. Most of you cannot read that. So when I'm presenting a journey to an executive team or a team that I want to engage, I most likely will send this to them. And if I present this to them, I'll usually put it in Prezi and animate it so that I can move in and out of sections. But mostly, I would present it like that and tell the story and show these vivid images. That is very kind of, it's almost comic book-like. And people immediately sit up and say, okay, what's going on there? I'm reading frames left to right. I'm seeing what's going on there and I'm curious. All right. That's another version of a journey map there. All right. So your presentation, and we're going to spend more time on this tomorrow, your presentation is really, really important. For today, you are just going to craft these journeys. And just a couple of principles before we move into a practicum. You want to try and smooth out the emotions in the journey. All right. So don't have a moment of magic, moment of misery, moment of magic, moment of misery. You want to choose carefully where you want to create your peaks. Usually when something goes wrong in a journey, you need to back up. All right. You need to find solutions upstream in your journey. All right. Because sometimes when someone has a missed expectation, it happened a lot earlier in the relationship. And that's why you need to invest early on in the relationship to set those expectations. I'm going to give you a quick example. Medical insurance. Usually, when they don't pay out a claim, the answer that they give you is, when you received your membership guide in section 3.8.1 on page 175, we told you that this is the benefit you have and that, this is the maximum we pay out. And the member goes, WTF, like I didn't even get to page 10 of the membership guide. All right, so we make the assumption as a brand that when we send someone a membership guide, they're going to obviously do this in one sitting, and they're just going to read the entire membership guide because it's written in such enticing legal language that, people just want to finish it all in one go. Okay, I'm being facetious here. But what's really important is that, we invest early on in the relationship. Like any relationship, if I look at mine, Johan's relationship, I remember people 18 years ago, he danced with me one time. All right. Massive investment because he doesn't dance. He danced with me one time, created a huge expectation that he's just failed for the last 18 years. So he invested early on in the relationship, and then it kind of just fizzled out. Johan, I dream of like doing the Argentine tango with you one day, like when we're 80 years old. So I'm just saying, I haven't let that one go yet. All right. I still have hope. That, we're going to do the Argentine tango.
One can
while I wear your boxer shorts. All right. Fantastic. So it's important to invest in that early on. Then stretch out of your solution space. All right. If you're looking just for innovation in your space, and what I'll do, I'll play you a Volvo campaign a little bit later. Johan, just remind me, I'll play your Volvo campaign a bit later. That's going to show you, how you can still be true to yourself, but extend outside of your space. Then a very strong end. Okay. So Daniel Kahneman talks about the peak end, and we want to build peaks into this experience. All right. We don't want the experience just to be bland because then someone's not going to remember it. We also want to finish the experience strong. So most call center interactions, most calls that you've made to a call center, they ask you at the end, is there anything else I can do for you today? Like they're reading it off the script. All right. And I would have said if there's anything else that they can do for me. So you want to finish strong. And usually what I advise a lot of people to do is let's just pour some gratitude into that last bit of the call, saying, thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve you today. I actually feel so proud. I'm hoping that I really helped you today in an authentic manner, because gratitude changes both the giver and the receiver. All right. So finish strong and then smooth transitions. It mustn't feel like, if I'm going from the app to the call center, I don't want to feel like I'm doing interplanetary travel. I want to feel like, I'm just entering another place in the organization. All right. We want to remove skips, jumps, and white space, amplify that positive peak. Sometimes we need to reorder the moments. Like if it makes sense from our system perspective, sometimes we just need to reconsider. And then just abandoning what we know and how we stuck in our processes, and really just reimagine the journey.